Hello, in this video, I will go over the different types of variation models, such as direct variation, inverse variation, and joint variation. So the objective of this lecture is you should be familiar which model to you should be familiar which model equation to use and able to find the k value or the constant and find the unknown values by plugging in your known values. So this is all about variation. Okay. So how do you solve for variation problems? First, you got to figure out which type of variation. So you got to figure out if it's a direct variation, inverse variation, or a joint variation. Once you know your variation problem, find the constant or the k value first before you find anything else. Then once you find your k value, you plug in your known values to find whatever you need to find. Step 3, proceed to find the unknown value by plugging in your k value and other known values that is given. So let's talk about direct variation. Direct variation is also known as a linear function, y equals kx. So how do you know if you have a direct variation? It's known as y varies directly. So the keyword is varies directly. So that's how you know you have a direct variation. And or y is directly proportional to x. So that all means direct variation and it's linear. So here's a graph of a direct variation. It's a linear line, time on the x-axis and y on the distance on the y-axis. Okay, so that is direct variation. Inverse variation is also known as a rational function, where you have y equals k over x. How do you know if you have an inverse variation? It goes by the statement y varies inversely. So if you see the word inversely, you know it's a fraction form as x or y inversely proportional to x. So an example of a graph of an inverse variation would be exponential. No, this would be, yeah, it would be an exponential. I guess this would be a decay, exponential. Okay, so that is inverse variation. What about joint variation? So the statement y varies jointly. So the keyword is jointly as x and z, or y is jointly proportional to x and z. So it's just like kind of like a linear function. The only difference is you have an extra variable. That's really the only difference. So an example would be y equals k times x times z. And the keyword would be y varies. The keyword it would be varies jointly. Okay. Okay. So that was joint. Now that you know the different types of variation, let's do an example. So example 1 says your electric bill at Middle States Electric Company varies directly with the amount of electricity that you use. If the bill for a 2800 kilowatts of an electricity that is 196, then what is the bill for 4000 kilowatts of electricity? So first step is figure out which type of variation do you have. Do you have a joint? Do you have a direct variation, inverse variation, or a joint variation? So let's see if we know what is the keyword. It says varies directly. So what does varies directly mean? It usually means it's a direct variation, right? So it's most likely a linear function. So ours direct variation, it would be y equals, I don't like the red, let's use blue. Y equals, actually, let's use green. K times that, oh no, that's bad, blue. K times x. So we're not even, this this is our equation, but we're not going to use actually y and x. Instead, let's replace y with what? A, the amount. K will still be k, and then x would be, what is x? What do we have? Electricity, right? So our equation is A equals K times E, because this is a direct variation. So it's very similar to this, but instead of Y, we use A. Instead of X, we use electricity, E. Okay, now that we know the equation, let's figure out, our next step is figure out what is our K value. So what you're going to do to figure out your K value is plug in your known value that they give us. So let's see, what did they tell us? If the bill for 2,800 kilowatts, so 2,800 kilowatts is what? RE, right? It's our amount of electricity. And then the electricity is $196. So that would be our amount. Okay, so stop there. Do you see this other piece of information? Then the watt bill is 4,000 kilowatt. Then what is the bill for? That will be, we're going to plug in that piece of information after we find our K value. Okay, so let's figure out our K value. So we said our amount was 196. We don't know where K is, and then our E is 2,800. Solve for K, so you're going to divide both sides by 2,800. 2,800, you get K equals to 0.07. You don't have to put any units for K because it is a constant. Okay, so now what do we have to find? It says, what is the bill? So the bill means the amount, right? That is what we have. So we're going to use the same equation, A equals K times E. But this time, what can we do? We can replace K with 0.07. And what else do they tell us? The bill, then what is the bill? So we got to find for A when the bill is 4,000 kilowatts. So our E is 4,000. So our total amount will be $280. Okay. So that is the step to find do this variation problem. Go ahead and take some time to copy. Okay, copied. Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, let's do example 2. The volume of gas in a cylinder is inversely proportional to the pressure on the gas. If the volume is 12 cubic centimeters, then the pressure on the gas is 200 kilograms per square centimeters. Then what is the volume when the pressure is 150 kilograms per square centimeter? So, first step is figure out which equation we're going to use. So, any keywords that you can spot is, okay, so the keyword is inversely proportional. So, what that equation of it, what is an equation of an inverse variation? It is y equals k over x, right? The thing is, we're not going to use y, we're not going to use x. Instead, we're going to replace the volume of a gas cylinder is inversely proportional to the pressure of on the gas. So we're going to replace y with v, leave k alone, and then our x will be pressure. Okay, so this is the equation we're going to use, and then we're going to solve for k. So what we're going to do to solve for K is plug in our known values. So what do they tell us? The volume is 12 centimeters cubed, and then the pressure is 200 kilograms. Okay, so let's use that to find our K. So volume is 12 equals to K over P, which is 200, cross multiply. So 1 times K is K. 12 times 200 is 2400. Okay, so we're going to use the same exact equation, V equals K over P. Then they're asking you what is the volume. So we got to solve for V. So it's going to be V equals, and then we can replace K with 2400. And then my pressure is 150 kilo. You could put your units. This would be, we don't, K, we'll just leave it alone. So, but we know the volume is going to be centimeters cubed. So put it all together, you get 2400 over wait, did I do this right? 24, the pressure is 150. So yeah, 2400 divided by 150 is 16. And then it would be centimeters cubed because that is what our volume is. Okay. Go ahead and copy and then move on to example 3. Okay, let's move on. Okay, example 3 says the cost of shipping a piece of machinery by truck varies jointly with the weight of the machinery and the distance that is shipped. It costs $3,000 to ship a 2,500-pound milling machine at a distance of 600 miles. Find the cost for shipping a 1,500 pounds lathe a distance of 800 miles. So first step is figure out which equation will be used. Blah, blah, blah. It says varies jointly. So what does vary jointly means? It means it's like a linear function, but this time we have we have an extra variable. So so what is the equation of varies jointly? It is y equals k times x times z, right? Thing is, we're not going to use y, we're not going to use x, and we're not going to use z. What are we going to replace y with? I think we'll replace y with costs, leave k alone. What about x and z? So with the weight, so maybe we can replace x with w. And then we can replace z with the distance. Okay. Okay, so this is our equation we're going to use. The next step is figure out what your k value is by plugging in your known value. Okay, so we know that the cost, so you can just write it down. Cost is 3,000. Weight is 2,500 pounds, and then a distance of 600 miles. Okay, so let's plug in that in to find K. So 3,000, 2,500, distance is 600. solve for k. So get rid of this 2500 and 600 by dividing both sides. Cancel, cancel, and you get k is about 0.02. Or not, it's actually exactly 0.2. Okay, so we're still gonna use the same equation. But this time it says find the cost, so we gotta find C. And we know that our K value is 0.02. My W is fine. What is our W? Our W is, our weight is 1500. And then my distance is 800. Put it all together, you get 2400. So it would cost 2400. Okay, go ahead and copy or pause to write down the info. Let's move on to the last example. It says, example 4 says, find the variation constant and write the formula that expresses the indicated variation. A varies inversely as B, where A equals 3 and B equals 2. So how do you write the word in the word, what does it say? Inversely means division. So it was like y equals k over x, but we're not going to use y. We're not going to use x. Instead, it says a varies inversely. So we're going to replace y with a, leave k alone, and then inversely is b. So we're going to replace x with b. Okay. So all we got to do is solve for k when a is 3 and b is 2. That's it. So a is 3, k is k, b is 2. Cross multiply, 1 times k is k, 3 times 2 is 6, and that's it. So I guess you can rewrite this equation as a equals 6 over 2. Okay, yeah, that definitely wraps it up for this section. I guess the next one would be a quiz. Okay, I will end it here. Thank you. Bye-bye.